You underestimate the power of the dark side. If you will not fight, then you will meet your destiny.
Citizens, soldiers, I'm here at the order of General Robert E. Lee, commanding all Virginia forces. On April 15th of this year of our Lord, 1861, Simon Cameron, the Secretary of War of the United States, sent a telegram to our Governor, John Letcher, directing him to raise 3 regiments of infantry to be sent to assist in suppressing the Southern Confederacy. Governor Letcher's answer is well known to you, but perhaps not his words. His wire to Washington stated, "You have chosen to inaugurate civil war. And having done so, we will meet you in a spirit as determined as the Lincoln administration has exhibited toward the South." 2 days later, the Virginia legislature voted for secession. Just as we would not send any of our soldiers to march in other states and tyrannize other people, so will we never allow the armies of others to march into our state and tyrannize our people. Like many of you, indeed most of you, I've always been a Union man. It is not with joy or with a light heart that many of us have welcomed secession. Had our neighbors to the north practiced the less bellicose form of persuasion, perhaps this day might not have come, but that day has been thrust upon us like it was thrust upon our ancestors. The Lincoln administration required us to raise 3 regiments. Tell them we have done so.
You cannot hide forever.
All right, nobody's hiding here, just having some technical issues, but we'll get it all figured out. If my mic will stay put. Yeah, as you can tell, it's been a little while. So anyway, just some housekeeping notes here. I'm going to try and do one of these each week about the same time, about 10 o'clock at night. Schedule's been hectic. I work 6 days a week, have church on Sunday. So as you can guess, I don't have a lot of time to do shows like I would like to. So we're just going to try this for now. There's supposed to be another thing happening between me and John that should be on his Facebook page. So if you're not friends with John Zangaro, go over there and like his page. And I'll release more information on that as it becomes available. Right now, I'm supposed to be meeting with him again on Thursday. So let's get right into this. If I can grab the right mouse here, because I have 2 computer screens and both of them are being a pain in my rear end tonight. So, as you can tell, I'm wearing the Alabama hat. Alabama won the SEC championship for, I don't know, 5th year in a row or something. I don't know. But it was a close game. I didn't get to watch it. I do have the article here. Top-ranked Alabama stormed back from a 14-point deficit to defeat Georgia 35-28 and secure the top seed in the 4-team college football championship. Number 1 ranked team and quarterback Jalen Hurts pulled off the victory in the Southeastern Conference Championship game. In the last 5 minutes and 19 seconds of the game, Hurts, who subbed in for an injured Tay, I can't even pronounce that last name, in the final quarter of the game, delivered 2 touchdowns to secure a lead and defeat number 4 ranked Georgia. Tay had assistance coming off the field after suffering an apparent ankle injury. Hurts threw a 10-yard touchdown pass to Jerry Jeudy and then ran 15 yards for the go-ahead touchdown with 1:04 left on the clock. Hurts was a starter during the last 2 seasons and helped get the team to the national title as a freshman, but ultimately lost the starting job to Tay. Upon coming off the field following the winning touchdown, Tay was one of the first people to get to greet Hurts on the sideline, and when the team was awarded the SEC championship trophy, the pair stood next to each other on the podium. Side note, Fox, please learn how to use spell check. Greet is not spelled Grett. It's not. Okay. And CNN's got the same problem. I don't believe anybody does spell check anymore. But that's all for the sports updates. I had to throw that in there because my sister-in-law is a huge Alabama fan. I'm an Alabama fan. And as some of you may know, my family, or my wife's family, is all from Alabama. So we follow football a lot. Okay, now to some interesting political news here. It appears that Florida is completely blowing itself up. I do not understand this at all. Apparently, when it comes to states like Florida, we wait until the votes have come in, then magically a truck full of ballots shows up with just enough to get our candidate to win. I'm not sure how that's not voter fraud, but that is turn this down a little bit. I'm probably blowing your eardrums out on the radio side. But I don't know how this isn't voter fraud. I don't know. Well, yeah, I do know. Because it benefits a certain party, we don't investigate this one like we would investigate, I don't know, Russian collusion. Yeah. So it is what it is. I guess we just have to learn to deal with it and figure out how to stop it, if that's even possible. But anyway, the news from Florida here is Broward election chief Snipes rescinds resignation, will fight governor suspension. I don't know how you rescind a resignation or how you would fight the governor suspending you. I don't understand how Florida politics work, apparently. I know what the rules are here in Pennsylvania, which is all I really need to concern myself with, but this should not be going on. Article goes on, the fallout over Florida's turbulent recount is escalating after the state's outgoing Republican governor decided to oust a South Florida elections official. This South Florida election official should have been ousted, I would say the day after the election. I mean, you lose a whole truck load of ballots, I think you deserve to lose your job. I mean, I work for a delivery company. I'm a truck driver, in case y'all didn't know that. If I lose a truckload of freight, I lose my job. And I'm union. It wouldn't matter. I'd lose my job. So how an election official can lose an entire truckload of ballots and not lose her job? I don't get that at all. But Anyway, Governor Rick Scott late Friday suspended embattled Broward County Supervisor of Elections Brenda Snipes, even though Snipes had already agreed to step down from her post in early January. She should be brought up on criminal charges. I'm no elections official, but I'm pretty sure what she's been doing is illegal on many fronts. Scott replaced Snipes with his former general counsel, even though Peter Antonassi has no elections experience. Well, apparently elections experience doesn't matter because obviously this Brenda Snipes person isn't following the rules as they're written anyway. So what does it matter? My German Shepherd could probably run an election about as well as Broward County's been running them here lately. Snipes responded by rescinding her previous resignation. Again, I don't get, how do you rescind a resignation after it's been accepted? If I go to my boss and I quit and he says, no, you're fired. And then I go, oh no, I'm going to fight you. I rescind my resignation. Okay. I give up. And we'll now be fighting this to the very end. It's already ended. You resigned. Move along. We believe these actions are malicious. No, I believe you lost a truckload of ballots. I believe that's pretty normal procedure is to at least get suspended. That was according to Bernadette Norris Weeks, who said that Broward County voters should be concerned about what Scott is trying to do in the Democratic stronghold. So don't be concerned about a truckload of ballots going missing and magically not showing up till after the votes are being sent to the Attorney General's office. Don't worry about that. Worry about the governor using his power as governor to fix a problem that should have been fixed. The year 2000 comes to mind. Okay, rewind here. I was in high school in 2000. I can remember this. The infamous Hanging Chad. That was also Broward County, by the way. Broward County, Dade County. Yeah, all those little counties down there right around Orlando and Miami. It is amazing to me how in 18 years, we have not been able to get those counties corrected in the state of Florida. That should be a stark example of why government doesn't work. How hard is it to count ballots? Now, I counted ballots, hand counted ballots, did it for the contract vote at the Union Hall. We hand counted ballots. We counted them 3 times, had the ballots done. Now, granted, we only had maybe 500 and some ballots, but our process didn't allow for a truckload of ballots to go missing or a box. We had a process. We signed off on the box. We had the box locked. We had the seals on it, and we did paper ballots. No problems. None. Yet Broward County, with paid people, can't figure out how to run an election. Florida, the fact that you haven't dealt with this in 18 years is the problem. Let's see. Oh, and apparently the reason I'm worried is because now the Republican governor has put in a Republican appointee to run the county, and it's quote a Democratic stronghold. Yeah, okay. Snipes has been the top election official in the South Florida county since 2003. 2003. Okay, so she replaced the guy that screwed up the 2000 election. Oh, and she was appointed by Governor Jeb Bush. So she's upset because the governor removed her and appointed somebody else after she resigned, by the way. But herself wasn't appointed by the governor, which was then a Bush. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Just saying. She came under withering criticism for her handling of this year's election. You think? So, okay. Serious. Okay. If you lose a truck full of ballots, okay, we're going to say lose here, even though the entire truck had all Democrat ballots and not one Republican ballot. There's no voter fraud here. She just lost the ballots. Nobody's supposed to be held responsible. Nobody is supposed to, I don't know, face criminal trial. But yeah, elections work. Vote harder. As well as its legally required recount in close races for governor and U.S. Senate. She had been elected 3 times, and her current term was not scheduled to end until 2020. In this executive order, Scott said he was suspending Snipes due to misfeasance, incompetence, and neglect of duty. Yeah, I think you got a pretty good case there, Governor Scott. Pretty good case. His order cited problems during the recount, including reports of more than 2,000 ballots being misplaced. She also came under fire in 2017 after she destroyed year-old ballots in violation of law. So she violated the law by destroying ballots she was told she wasn't allowed to destroy because I believe it was being held up by a court order. She misplaces 2,000 ballots this year. So what are you going to go for broke next year, and she's just going to certify the election 5 minutes before the polls open? Why not? If you're not held responsible for anything. The governor finally did what a governor's supposed to do and suggested that there was possible fraud here. I'm in Pennsylvania, Governor Scott. I'm over 1,000 miles away. Possible fraud? I can see it from here. It wasn't possible fraud. This was fraud. But never offered any concrete examples. Well, he's doing what a politician does. Again, truckload of ballots goes missing, magically shows up, and not a single Republican vote. Very interesting, isn't it? During his 8 years in office, Scott has rarely suspended elected officials unless they were first charged with a crime. Florida law requires the state Senate to either remove or reinstate county officials who are suspended by the governor. So it looks like she's going to get her day in front of the Florida State Senate. Okay. I still would like to hear the explanation of how 2,000 ballots disappear and how you destroy ballots that you were told not to, and which is a violation of state law. But Antonassi also Scott replaced Snipes with Antonassi, who has held a number of posts at the governor's direction. Antonassi also played a pivotal role in the controversial decision to force the ouster of Florida Department of Law Enforcement Commissioner Gerald Bailey in 2015. Antonassi has been president of the Florida's Economic Development Agency since last year. So, okay. So he's held several government offices at the behest, or several posts at the behest of the governor. Snipe appeared at the start of the Saturday press conference where she urged people to have an open mind about the whole process. She maintained that we have always done our work in an era of quality and integrity. Okay, integrity is not losing 2,000 ballots. Integrity is not breaking state law. That is not integrity. Ms. Snipes, I hate to break it to you, but you cannot have integrity outside of Christ. It doesn't happen. I'm sorry, it doesn't. That's all for that. I am so done with Florida politics. It's become a joke. So let's move on to Pennsylvania politics, shall we? Equally a joke. So There's a tax increase going to hit us in January, in case none of you know. It's going to hit in January. It's a 9 cents a gallon fuel tax, I believe is what I saw. PennDOT is still claiming it doesn't have the money to keep the roads up. We are higher taxed than every state except for California, and yet our Department of Transportation still says it cannot keep the roads up. And you guys may have seen it on national news. I don't know if it made national news. I know it made local news around here. I-83, which is just south of my house, okay, was completely closed for a day for a snowstorm. And yes, Suzanne, we got all your snow. I don't know why we got all your snow, but we got all your snow. We had 8 inches hit my area. In fact, it was 8.3. It was second highest snowfall in November prior to Thanksgiving at that. About a week before Thanksgiving. 8.3 inches of snow. PennDOT knew it was coming. I-83, major interstate that runs between Baltimore and Harrisburg, completely shut down. Accidents all over the place. People stranded. PennDOT or state police, PSP, actually had to go and ask civilians that had ATVs and snowmobiles to go out and rescue people that had been trapped in their cars to the point where they ran out of fuel. Okay, first of all, if a snowstorm's coming, fill your tank up. You never know what's going to happen, but fill your tank up. That's just number one tip. Always be prepared. If you run out of fuel, most of these cars can go 400 to 600 miles on a tank. You burn an average of a gallon an hour on idle. So the car tanks are anywhere from 12 to 14 gallons. Some of them have as many as 28-gallon tanks. If you fill up before the storm, you should be fine. Again, this is the East Coast, not the West Coast. We're not in the Rockies. We're not going to get stranded, most likely, for any longer than maybe 12 hours tops. But you should be prepared that if it does happen, that you're prepared for it. You should have water in the car, and you should have your cell phone fully charged and the car full of fuel and all of this. It's not rocket science. I've lived through many major snowstorms on the East Coast. 93, 96, 98, 08. I mean, well, I'm not sure about the 08 one, but anyway, there's been a couple. We had one just the other year that was 30 plus inches. We dug ourselves out. We were back at work 2 days later. It's the Northeast. We deal with massive snowstorms. We push it off and we move away. And yes, I know massive as in terms of the East and Mid-Atlantic, not massive as in the Rocky Mountains. Don't send me your hate mail. I know our snowstorms do not compare to the ones in the Rockies. I've driven through those too. Don't like doing it. So anyway, back to the story. Pennsylvania finally passed a budget on time. This is a shock because the Republican Senate, a Republican House, and a Democrat governor. So apparently they all work together, which that means grab your wallet. You're about to lose a lot of money because when politicians agree, my paycheck always suffers. If someone could explain to me that, I would love to hear the answer. So this story came out on the local news wire, the ABC wire. That's where I get most of my local news from. Grab the right mouse again. And experts anticipate a difficult state budget. This summer, lawmakers passed Pennsylvania's first on-time in years budget. Apparently, we can't figure out how to come to an agreement on how to spend other people's money in this state. We just like to spend a lot of it, and we can't agree on where to spend it. Because in Pennsylvania, we don't have Republicans fighting for lower taxes and Democrats fighting for higher taxes. We have Republicans fighting for spending here and Democrats fighting for spending there, and both of them agree that we need to raise taxes. They just don't agree on things like where and where they should spend it. The bad part about all this is we're still better off than states like Maryland, New Jersey, and New York. How, I don't know, but we are. Our taxes are still lower. next year could look a little different. The Independent Fiscal Office recently released economic and budget outlook projects. Outlook projects a $1.7 billion deficit for the upcoming fiscal year. Why is that important? Well, I mean, we don't normally care about deficits, so it gives us an excuse to raise taxes. So, raise taxes. Oh, Democrats, Republicans, politicians, they love to raise your taxes. It's pretty hard to have a deficit that large when the economy is doing very well and revenue is growing quite well at the state level, said Nathan Benefield with the Conservative Commonwealth Foundation. Oh, Mr. Benefield, I can tell you how you run massive deficits while the economy is doing so good. For one, the economy is kind of wishy-washy. It's not really doing real good. It's actually thriving off of debt market right now. And when the debt market comes down, hold on to your pants. We're going to lose everything, which may actually, politically speaking, be a good thing, because when the states realize they actually have to start funding their own stuff, maybe we can get away from this federal government fixes all program. He points to a nearly $3 billion increase in general fund expenditures. We spent $3 billion more than we did the year before. And that included a projected $1.8 billion with a B increase in the Department of Human Services. Can someone please show me in the state constitution where it says we're supposed to fund human services? I've read the document. I can't find it. And stop using the general welfare clause. That's not what it's meant for. Some of it is because simply last year was an election year. So they just pushed costs off on the future and didn't really account for them. No, they did what they thought would get them elected. You're being played. Yes, Played, played. Benefield notes that the governor ran on not increasing taxes. Governor Wolf did not run on. Oh, that's laughable. Governor Wolf has not seen a tax that he did not like. He has not seen a tax increase he did not like. He loves his taxes. He eats, breathes, and sleeps on how he can raise taxes. That's what he's done. That's what he's always done since he's been elected 4 years ago. But we got another 4 years of him. So maybe he's turning over a new leaf. Or maybe he's afraid that citizens will storm Mount Wolf. I don't know. I don't think I could go to sleep very well if I knew people were that mad over a 9-cent a gallon fuel tax. That wasn't even bad. All truth be told, Wolf had nothing to do with the 9-cent a gallon fuel tax we're about to suffer under January 1st. That came down from a Republican governor, a Republican House, and a Republican Senate because PennDOT, quote, said they needed money. PennDOT doesn't need money. PennDOT needs fired. 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 I think there's going to be some back and forth. You think? It's not an election year. They don't care if they strand the budget for the next 2 years. As long as they pass a budget on time right before the next election, they're good. Governor gets his paycheck. Legislature gets theirs, and the governor or the Met. And the judges get theirs. So why would anyone be in a hurry to pass the budget? Why would they be in a hurry to fix the problem? Most Pennsylvanians don't even realize we spent $3 billion more, or that we increased the Department of Human Services by $1.8 billion, a department that by right the state doesn't even have a right to have under the state constitution. So, finding ways of controlling spending. They're not going to control spending, people. The only way you're going to get the only way you're ever going to get a politician to control his spending is if you do what they did over in Athens, or no, maybe it was Sparta, where if you put a piece of legislation forth and it didn't pass, they executed you right there on the podium. That is the only way you are going to stop this. The only other way you could even slow it down would be to split the state up into 6 different pieces, or even 2 pieces, and just be like, yeah, we can't do it anymore. But alas, I can get people to agree that could be a decent solution, and then in the same breath say, well, it'll never happen. I'm for it happening. I know a bunch of people that are for it happening, and we just got to get the politicians to get on board, because in Pennsylvania, only politicians can support amendments to our Constitution, which is good and bad. It is what it is, but it can be a very big pain to see in a state like Alabama, or I believe even in California. You can get a petition going and get an amendment to the Constitution done. Of course, in California, you do that, and then a federal judge just tells you don't have the right to do that, and expends your Constitution anyway, which the federal judge should have been impeached. But anyway, I'm rambling about stuff that's not related to this story. So that's all for the physical side. But here's another good one. So we just got done talking about how the state just spent $3 billion more this year, and how there's going to be this huge deficit that they don't know how they're going to cover. But you'll be pleased to know lawmakers that don't start their job until January can collect their December paychecks. Oh, yes, you heard that correctly. People that haven't even been on the job for one day can collect their paychecks for December. Merry Christmas. I truly wish I could go into my boss and tell him that I got the job and that he needs to pay me a month of earnings before I even put the key in the ignition. Yeah. But that's what the PA legislature just did. They're going to take their December paychecks. They won't even tell you thank you. No. That's too good. They won't tell you thank you. They'll take those paychecks and they'll spend them on their kids, their families. Well, the vast majority of us are sitting here trying to figure out how we're going to get Christmas for our families, our kids. So I find it a little strange how there's not more people in this state paying attention to what is going on with their money. I watch my money like a hawk. And trust me, my wife watches it even closer than I do. She tells me about it every week. So lawmakers that don't start until January can cash December paychecks. Newly elected lawmakers in Pennsylvania can start collecting a paycheck in December, even though they don't get sworn in until January. So, again, we have people who all they've done for the Commonwealth now is win a popularity contest. So, in order to get a month of pay, all you have to do is win a popularity contest. Let that sink in for a minute. We're not even talking, you know, like, what's that big beauty pageant? I forget it. But anyway, it big beauty pageant that happens every year. But They don't even get paid until they win, as far as I know. They don't get paid until they win. We have politicians now that win, then get paid. No contract signed. Nothing's done. They're not even sworn in. They could literally take that first month's paycheck, wait till December 31st, resign their seat, but they got a paycheck for doing a job that they never did. Sounds a little fishy, don't it? The base pay of a PA politician is $88,000. $88,000. I know people that I work with that don't even get that much, and they're out on a dock moving freight for $13 and $14 an hour. They don't make $88,000 a year. But these politicians make $88,000 a year to sit behind a nice warm desk, do absolutely nothing for the people that they're supposed to, that they represent. But to sit behind that nice wooden desk and that nice big rotunda and look good for the cameras and win a popularity contest, they get $88,000 a year. They stand to make about $7,400. Pennsylvania has a full-time legislature. One of the big problems with Pennsylvania, there's only 2 states in the entire country that have full-time legislatures. And they are some of the highest taxed states in the country. One is Pennsylvania, one is California. Why are we as Pennsylvania so worried about trying to compete with California? Why do we have to mirror everything California does? Pennsylvania has a full-time legislature, which means they get paid evenly throughout the year, whether or not they are in session. Okay, so whether they work or not, they're getting paid. This is a fork in the road, says Eric Epstein, a coordinator at watchdog group Rock the Capitol. I have issues with Mr. Epstein, but we won't get into those here. You can either take pay for work you didn't perform and get ingrained into the system where you're compromised, or you can take a stand and say, I am not going to take pay for work I didn't perform. Donate it to charity. And by the way, we're going to co-sponsor legislation that gets rid of this ridiculous practice. Not every lawmaker accepts the December pay. For example, Senator John DeSanto donated the money to charity when he was a freshman. The fact that it's offered is the problem. You can't. The laborer is worthy of his hire. Biblical principle. Union principle will be a fair day's work for a fair day's pay. That's a union principle. But nobody, either worker, blue-collar worker, truck driver, none of us get paid for not before we do a job. We have to sign contracts. We have to move the freight. And most of the time in the freight industry, the going average is we don't get paid till 120 days after the load's been delivered. Just think about it. A truck driver, an owner-operator, on average, has to wait anywhere between 30 and 120 days to get a paycheck for a load he's delivered. But a politician gets paid 30 days before he even gets sworn in to do his job. At what point are we going to get away from professional legislatures? And I think it's time I get a new computer. There we go. Now it's loading. Okay. National Package Protection Day. So I work for a company with a lot of brown trucks. I'm in the freight division. Okay. I don't show up at your door bringing you freight. I drive the big trucks back and forth to the terminals. However, with Black Friday being last Friday, well, 2 weeks Friday, packages are starting to arrive at your house. Okay. Predatory people and thieves, let's just call them what they are. They're thieves. They're not porch pirates. They're thieves. Are probably, well, they're not probably. They are going to be looking for soft targets. There was a case. There was a case on national news, made national news, of a woman had ordered mealworms for her bearded dragon, and this thief stole her box of mealworms. So I don't know how many of y'all are know anything about Star Trek. In Star Trek, they had a race called the Klingons. The Klingons would eat these kind of worms. I'm not a Klingon. I'm not eating worms. But I don't know what this woman was thinking, but she had to have gotten one really big surprise when she opened the box. Not to mention, they caught her on camera, and I'm pretty sure the local PD and state police are going to be looking at her because it is a federal crime to steal parcels. So it's interstate commerce theft, I believe, is what it's classified as. But anyway, so I found this article that gives you some hints and tips, and so we'll go through it. There's some basic stuff in here. As a truck driver, if you have a package coming and you can't be home for it, you can sometimes have it delivered to, say, a UPS store or FedEx store or the post office, have it held there, and you go pick it up. I know that is super inconvenient. I understand. It may not work with your work schedule, but at least it'll be secure. The other option you have is if you can have it sent to your, I don't know, your elderly neighbor that lives a door down, can hold the package for you, or another family member. I could use my grandma or my dad that's home almost all the time. They could receive my package. I'm lucky. My wife stays home with the kids, so she can receive all my packages. But anyway, that's the biggest tip. The Ring doorbells and the security cameras, they're only good for giving the police a description of who took your stuff. You're not going to get the stuff back. Now, granted, they'll probably catch the person, but by the time they catch them, you're not going to have the stuff anymore. There's no good reason here. It's just, it is what it is. The best thing to do is to have a live person receive the package, bring it in the house, and hold it there until you get there. Or have it delivered to the UPS store, the FedEx store, the post office, or a PO box, or somebody that can hold the package until you can physically get there to receive it. The going deal, like where I work at freight companies, our service is curbside. We drop it off on the curb or in your driveway. We don't even walk it up to your house. Unless you pay for that, we don't walk it up to your house. You have to take that up with the employer. They're the ones that write the rules on that. But if you have a package coming to your house and you know it's coming and it's anything valuable, I mean, obviously with the mealworms, that was just laughable. It shouldn't have happened, but the woman on the news was just absolutely hysterical about it. Like, she couldn't believe this woman took her mealworms for her bearded dragon. And I would have loved to have seen her face when she opened that box up, thinking it was a cell phone or something. I hope she was afraid of bugs. With Black Friday and Cyber Monday shopping over, hundreds of thousands of packages will arrive at doorsteps Wednesday. Yes, please be kind to your delivery people. They are being overworked like you would not believe right now. Normally, where I work, the well, I'm in freight, but the parcel guys, their normal work week is 60-hour work weeks. The minute they go into what's known as peak season, which happens right around the end of October until about mid-January, end of January, beginning of February, somewhere in there, they can't get off. They have to work 70 hours a week. They basically become a slave to the company for 2 to 3 months. And yes, I know that is trucking, that is package delivery, that's just the way it is. But just be kind to them. They're overworked, they're stressed out, their boss is riding them like a horse. Be kind to them, okay? And no, I won't see you, so it's not a plug for me. It may have been as easy as the click of a button to buy presents, but making sure they make it into your house and under your tree is more difficult. Okay, so here's the advice on how to protect your packages. Join a neighborhood watch. You can join a neighborhood watch, but the chances of that being a successful and fruitful endeavor is probably minimal. And judging by an article we'll probably get into here in a little bit, might not be a safe endeavor, but it's an option. Join a neighborhood watch. A community app or web page can help communities stay connected in real time to alert neighbors of thieves or suspicious characters. That could be done as easily as a Facebook page, with your neighbors, text messaging. Literally, the best way to have a safe community is to get out and know your neighbors. Know who your neighbors are. Shake their hand. Take them a plate of cookies. Go back to the 1960s model of the neighbor across the street moved in. You made him a box of cookies. You take it over to them, shake their hand, have a nice conversation with them. Number 2, use smart home technology. Now, this would have been a good one for Mr. Carpenter to be on. Secret Squirrel. Because he's got a different outlook on the devices. I believe he doesn't like them, but anyway, it's part of the article, so I'm going to read it. Devices like the Ring send alerts to your phone when someone is approaching your door. Most of these devices have a two-way talk feature, so you can ward off any strangers trying to take your guns. I would probably not be good with these because I would probably set it up to where it would sound like a shotgun racking. Yeah, and then I'd probably have a note from the police telling me to take that recording off. but anyway, I'm in a county where we're very gun friendly here in Pennsylvania. Get permission to ship all your packages to work. This can be done. Not all companies are going to allow you to do this because it will overload their mailroom, and it's not your employer's job to babysit your stuff. I know in this day and age, we like to put a lot of responsibility on the employer, but the employer's job is to make a profit, not to babysit your stuff. So I don't agree with this one. And I work for a shipping company. This one I do agree with. Ask a friend or neighbor to receive your packages for you. Just because you're not home during the workday doesn't mean other folks aren't. Like I said, my wife's home all the time. The neighbor across the street is home. The neighbor next door is home. So there are options here that you can use in order to get your packages in off the street. You don't have to just let them sit on the doorstep. Okay. Number 5 is consider a doorman service like Amazon Locker. If you plan on getting a package while you're out of town, this will keep your goods under lock and key. Never used that service, never heard of that service, so I can't vouch or say anything about it. It sounds like one of those bus terminal lockers. like modified P.O. box. We'll just throw your stuff in there and, hopefully you come back and get it before we clean your box out. But I have no experience with that. Number 6 is spread awareness. Talk about what you learned with loved ones, coworkers, and use the hashtag Pound Package Protection Day. to spread the word. Okay, the last one's completely bogus. They're just trying to get hits at that point. That's not going to help keep your packages safe. The keeping your neighbors notified of what's going on, the having a neighbor receive it, having it shipped to one of the stores to hold it until you get off work, that will protect your packages. Like I said, some of these I just don't agree with, and some of them I don't understand at all what they're trying to do. But it is what it is. Okay, now this one's a very short one here. We have Democrats in the governor's office, the attorney general, the auditor general. They're all Democrats. When you have Philly and Pittsburgh that control your elections, that's what you get. But anyway, he's referring to gun control here. A new report released by Auditor General Eugene D. Pasquale, who, in my estimation, is going to run for governor. He is biding his time. He is doing certain things that make him look good to the overall public that is going to bid him a good run for governor. So he's somebody that needs to be watched, what he says when he says it, but not someone you want to take your eye off of, if that makes sense. Anyway, he aims to prevent gun violence in Pennsylvania without changing laws. First of all, the laws in Pennsylvania, the state constitution clearly says that my right to keep and bear arms in defense of myself and of the state shall not be questioned. So if it shall not be questioned, that means I shouldn't have to get a permit. I shouldn't have to pass a background check. I shouldn't have to beg the government for permission, which is what it is when I have to go to the sheriff's department and get my concealed carry permit. I shouldn't have to do that. Now, luckily, I don't have to also beg the federal government for that right because the state doesn't pass any of that information on. So there are caveats here. I don't have to pass a, quote, federal background check. I just have to pass a state police background check. My argument is there shouldn't be a background check. It makes a number of recommendations, including expanding access to mental health care. Again, who gets to determine who is at risk of mental health issues? This is where my beef is with this. How can a doctor, say you end up getting appointed to a doctor that just doesn't like guns. So he just says everybody's mentally insane and then has their guns taken away. What is your recourse? Once the guns are taken away, the chances of you ever getting those guns back are slim to none. There are actual counties around here that will destroy the guns while in the process of you fighting to get the guns back. That's my whole beef. Why is government involved in the first place? We don't have a Second Amendment, quote, right, or in the PA state constitution, I think it's Article 26. We don't have that right because, what am I trying to say here? That right is a man right, human right. It's not a government right. It's meant to keep the government in check. So why would we trust the government with putting restrictions on our rights? Okay, if God gave us certain unalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness or pursuit of property, which is what it originally was, then why would we trust the government to protect us when it's not the government's job to protect us? Even though they have a Supreme Court ruling that says that the officer's job is not to protect you, and they're not required by law to protect you. They're required to enforce the law. It also suggests firearm dealers to look for red flags in customers who may potentially use a gun in a suicide. Again, how does a gun shop have any idea what's going to happen once you buy that firearm? Because I know perfectly sane people that they walk out 12 hours later, they've lost their mind. No, they lost their job. Their wife filed for divorce. She took the kids away. You can't hold a gun dealer responsible for what a person does after he leaves the shop. And all the gun dealers I know wouldn't sell a gun if they thought the person looked mentally unstable anyway, because they have a right to refuse sale. Not because the government says they have to, but because, you know, you don't want to see someone hurt themselves. Asked the state game commission to expand its hunter education program on safe firearm usage and storage. Why is the game commission telling me how to store a firearm? Shouldn't that be the state police's job? I'm really done giving the game commission any more authority here. They're not elected. They shouldn't give any say over anything. And asked the governor to sign an executive order requiring state police to release regular reports on firearms traced from crimes. I don't see how that's relevant. The Auditor General says he worked with a number of groups on all sides of the gun control debate to participate, including the NRA. They declined to participate, he says. Okay. Wow. The NRA is never your friend anyway, people. Now, I'm running out of time here. I thought I was going to have enough to cover the whole hour. Come on. Well, as soon as it pulls it up. Here we go. This one just, the snowflake generation just gets me. As I've said several times, I'm a truck driver. I don't really have any time of day to deal with these snowflake, wishy-washy, everything offends me people. I just don't. Be an adult, move along with your life. It's not it shouldn't be this big of an issue. But anyway, a Cleveland radio station banned Baby It's Cold Outside Christmas tune. Now, we can argue whether it's a Christmas tune or not. I don't really think it is. It's kind of a secular pop song. Kind of stupid. In my opinion, they're going to say in the article here that it encourages rape and all this other stuff. I don't see it. It encourages fornication. I will get you that. Man's trying to talk his girlfriend into staying, if you're not familiar with the song. But would I pull it from a secular radio station to appease someone's perceived morals that they can't back up? No. I wouldn't do it. I think this is silly. I think the whole idea of we are always offended and something's always going on that offends us, and we should try not to ever be offended, and it's everybody else's ability not to offend us. Come on. Let's all grow up and be adults in the room here. Star 102 WDOK-FM calls itself Cleveland's Christmas station. Well, I don't know if you can claim that anymore, but its listeners are discovering that one holiday chestnut has been kicked to the curb. Oh, no. Baby It's Cold Outside, the duet in which a man tries to dissuade a woman from leaving a party, despite her repeated prostinations, has been pulled from the station's Christmas playlist amid concerns about its predatory nature. There is nothing predatory about this song. He's trying to talk his girlfriend into staying the night. Now, as a Christian, I will tell you this is wrong. He shouldn't be doing it, but she shouldn't be in the house with him alone anyway, because that's how fornication happens. And we know that fornication is mentioned in Scripture as a sin. So, let's remember why we celebrate Christmas. Penned by Guys and Dolls. I don't know. That should be a hint. Writer Frank Lozier in 1944. This song has stood since 1944, and only people that think have had a problem with this, and now all of a sudden the snowflakes have jumped on the bandwagon. Is perceived by some as unworthy for the most wonderful time of the year, particularly in the age of Me Too. I've been cut off too. I've been violated by cars. They've come into my travel lane. Pound me to me. Do you feel bad for me yet? Good. I didn't think you did. People might say, oh, enough with this Me Too movement. Yeah, I agree. But if you really put that aside and read the lyrics, I have. It's not something that I would want my daughter to be in that kind of situation. Yes, you're correct. I would not want my daughter to be in that kind of situation because I don't want my daughter, who would be dating, to be alone with a single man, single woman, single man in the house, alone by themselves, because I believe we should be kept pure until our wedding day. I know that's foreign in this culture. Many don't agree with that philosophy. Many think we should just test drive the car before we buy it. I don't believe that's scriptural. I believe that scripture is very clear that we should be pure until our wedding day. And to be in this kind of situation would prove that you're obviously not worried about what scripture has to say on the matter. The tune might be catchy, but let's maybe not promote that sort of an idea. Okay, I can understand not promoting that sort of an idea, but it's a tune. The guy's talking to his girlfriend. Seriously. It's now being called the Christmas date rape song. The guy's not drugging the girl. He's offering her a drink. She can refuse the drink. She can take the drink. She asks for a coat. You don't have to give her a coat. This whole thing has been blown so far out of proportion that it's just absolute lunacy. And it's driving me nuts. I really, I'm glad I drive a truck for a living, because if I had to deal with this every day, with the whole Christmas date rape song, I might lose my mind. And granted, some say I never had a mind to begin with, but that's beside the point. Oh, I'm running out of time. On the radio station's website, host Glenn Anderson wrote he didn't initially understand why the lyrics were offensive. Now I do realize that when the song was written in 1944, it was a different time. But now, while reading it, it seems very manipulative and wrong. Seriously. The world we live in is extra sensitive now. Yeah. Extra sensitive. And people get easily offended. But in a world where Me Too has finally given women the voice they deserve, the song has no place. Women have always had the right to say what they wanted to say. They got the right to vote in like 1912. Come on. Anyway, I'm out of time here. And I got to close the show down. So this is the Bailey Report. We'll see you next week. 10 o'clock, same time, hopefully. Have a safe week.